Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second panel session of the day. This one, slight change in direction from the last one around AI. This panel session, we want to explore a lot more about modern slavery, what it is, how we support people as a business to recover and get back into the world of work once they've gone through that experience, but ultimately how we can use our position and our place within the market to drive change. So in this for this panel, I'm delighted to be joined with Ilja and Misha, who work with us at Speedy Hire. Could I just get you to briefly sort of introduce yourself and just say a bit more about the work that you do with us?
Great, yeah, I can go first. My name is Misha. I work for a charity called Causeway, and I'm the manager for Bright Future Co-op. So Bright Future is a national fast-tracked employment program for survivors of modern slavery, and we're really happy to be working with Speedy to get survivors back into safe employment.
And yeah, thank you very much for having us today. My name is Ilja. I'm an ambassador for Causeway, and I also have lived experience of modern slavery, so I'll be delighted to be able to talk to you about that today.
Yeah. I think when we hear the word modern slavery, I think a lot of people will have an idea roughly of what that means. But Misha, could you just sort of define what it is, and actually, how we as a business how we can sort of support to drive that out?
Yes, definitely. I think modern slavery is very hidden in today's society, but it's actually one of the biggest human rights abuses and biggest forms of criminality that we have in the UK. So modern slavery and human trafficking is basically when somebody is forced to commit to do work by somebody else for their gain. So that can be for commercial gain or for personal gain. And it's everywhere. It's very much hidden in plain sight. But modern slavery is in the clothes that we wear, in the food that we eat, and I guess more applicable for today, in the services that we use. So I know specifically with construction, it's been determined to be one of the most high-risk sectors for modern slavery due to a number of different reasons, but really due to a lack of transparency in supply chains and lack of due diligence. But yes, in the UK last year, I believe there were around 17,000 people who came forward for support, and that isn't including the hundreds of people who opted out of having that support from the government. So it really is a large-scale problem. It's present in every region of the UK.
It is, I mean, I think when you look at some of the numbers involved and when you really start to sort of drill down in the prevalence of modern slavery, it is quite stark, and it's how, as you say, how it is hidden in plain sight. What, Ilja, just to sort of, I don't know if you want to sort of just elaborate on that from from a lived experience perspective. What can we do, and what are we doing, as I say, to support people, recover and get their lives back on track once they've survived?
I think one of the most important things is having that support in place through employment. So obviously that's one of the reasons why we're here today. I know Speedy has taken a lead in this and are working with Bright Futures to secure employment opportunities for people with lived experience. And what this actually means is they get to work in a workplace which is safe. They are supported, and generally people that have lived experience are quite resilient anyway. They're used to hard working. So this just gives us a fantastic opportunity to get back integrated into society in a trauma-informed way, which will really help us recover and heal quicker in the future.
Okay.
Because we really started Bright Future because we were noticing survivors were making enormous steps in their recovery. They were accessing, safe housing, really starting to build their confidence through support organizations. But the one area they were really struggling to secure was that safe and permanent employment. And as we know, employment brings financial freedom. It brings that meaningful community, that purpose in the day. But really, it just comes back to giving people dignity and control over their futures. And that's why we created Bright Future, because we realized that it was such an important part of survivors having independence that was sustainable, to really, making sure that they're building back their lives in a really sustainable, long-term way.
You mentioned earlier on that it is, as we've said, it is hidden in plain sight. What should we as a business? I mean, we obviously do our due diligence, within the supply chain, but at a level down from that, as individuals, what should we be looking out for on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, there are hundreds of different documents now to really dive into what to look for as a business within the supply chains. But what we're really focusing on here is remediation of survivors. And whilst we've got everybody here, I'd really love to focus on that side as well. Because, I mean, Speedy is really taking the lead with our other businesses who are working with 13 businesses across the country now, who are going further than legal compliance and really having that well-rounded approach to their modern slavery statement. And that's, yeah, as I mentioned, is focusing on remediation. But I think on a personal level, just having the awareness that modern slavery exists and taking the time to educate ourselves on what those signs can be, because there are a number of different avenues on how to report it now. And I think that's why the numbers are going up every year of survivors. It's not because this is getting bigger, it's because we're getting better at noticing it. So I think that's just something that we can all take on a personal level is being more aware of that. I'm not sure if you'd like to add anything, Ilja.
Sure. Ilja, would you like to jump in on that as well? And what, in your experience, particularly working with people with lived experience, what what we should be looking out for and how we can support people?
I think just really important is just making sure that support is definitely there. For me, this was 30 years ago, and I had no support whatsoever. So I know what it's like from the other point, where you just come back, you're trying to transition back to normality, and because there's nobody around you that understands, it's immensely difficult, and it just holds back your progress so much further. So just because there is a stigma attached to what people perceive somebody to be like when they've gone through modern slavery or they've been trafficked, but I just want to point out that there is no stigma, that there is no stereotype. We are all different. It just means that we were slightly vulnerable at the time that we were exploited. And, we are capable of many, many different things. So we have all kinds of levels of experience that we can take with us, and levels of intelligence as well, if you want to see it that way. And by being here and explaining to people what Brighter Futures is about, basically what we want to say to you is, if you join us with Brighter Futures and you sign up, you will be asked who you're looking for, what kind of person you're looking for, and the chances are that we have somebody in place that is capable of doing the job, because we've got people who are able to do all kinds of levels, so from managerial down, up, left, right, whichever angle you want to look at, we've got somebody, right?
Yes, I think that's the main thing. When people think about modern slavery, they probably have a particular survivor, like you mentioned, in their head. But we're working with people of every nationality, a large variety of age. I think the youngest people we're working with are around 17, and we've got up to 50, 60-year-olds. This really is a crime that can affect anybody. And yes, we'd love to have more businesses on board, because obviously the more businesses we have, the more job opportunities there are. And that's quite a key part of what we'd like, is for survivors to have an accessible route to safe employment, but also have the choice in what that is, just so that there's not just one area. And I think it's just having businesses that understand, these are very resilient, often very skilled workers. It's a talent pool that you probably haven't tapped into before, but they might not know that they're allowed to take a toilet break. They might not understand that they'll be paid at the end of the month, what that looks like with payroll. Little things that we probably take for granted on new starters. And it's really just about providing that very supportive environment just to allow people to thrive and rebuild their lives. That's really what we're doing.
One of the themes of the panel sessions that we've had so far has been about the importance of collaboration across the supply chain. So what can we do at Speedy, or more importantly, I guess, what are we doing to give people that sort of second chance and get them back into normality?
So the real heart of Bright Future is collaboration, and I think this is why we've partnered so well with Speedy, because We have collaboration between our referrer members. So these are charities that have really built up a relationship of trust with survivors in their recovery. And we are partnering with them, with the business member who are providing this supportive environment. And really what it is, it starts off as a 4-week placement, we call it, but really it's 4 weeks of increased support that just allows the survivor to enter in, feel safe, and yes, build back their lives that way. And that collaboration is so important to the success of the program. So yeah.
Yeah, offering some variety of job placements as well. That is absolutely paramount. Again, different people, different skills. There's plenty of people about to fill those spaces for you.
Yeah, and I think as well, I mean, it's so important, I think, that, you know, we can use our position. You know, we are a big player, not just within the hire sector, but ultimately within, you know, the whole of the construction sector. So I think there's two parts to it, as you said, the awareness of it, but ultimately how we can drive and we can leverage our position to make sure that other organisations are sort of aware of that this opportunity is there for them. So just off the back of that, are you working with other sort of partners within the construction sector and within the infrastructure sector to sort of, you know, expand your reach?
Yes, so we're working with Balfour Beatty. I'm not sure if we have anybody from Balfour here today, and also Tideway London. But construction is really a sector that we'd like to really reach into because we have the demand for it, especially I think with the candidates that we have interested in accessing Bright Future at the moment. A lot of them are 17, 18-year-olds who are at the beginning of their careers and really looking to enter into some sort of trade or labor role. So we're really excited to kind of develop opportunities in that space. But then also anything with facilities management, security, cleaning roles, they're really in demand as well, I think. And as Ilja has mentioned, sometimes it's the stepping stone into the company. We've had candidates who have started off as cleaners and then progressed quite quickly into a role that they're most interested in, or where they see their career going. And often it's just that stepping stone, letting them know that this is a safe place to work, they can make this a home here. So yes, that's our long-term aim. We'd love to have more people join us if anybody's interested.
I think one of the interesting things that you said there, you know, was, as I say, is taking that first step towards getting people back into work. And I think one of the big things we have to consider is, you know, forming a culture that is sort of welcoming and supportive. What gets the best results? I want to understand, you know, what sort of culture within a business gets the best opportunity for people to get that sort of second chance? Ilja, I don't know if you want to sort of expand on that a bit.
I don't think it particularly matters. There's quite a few answers within that question, I think. I don't think the culture matters particularly.
I'll take on after you.
You take over for that for a minute. I've just lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
I think I can only speak from our Bright Future perspective, but we find that the best results come when line managers and HR staff really understand our program and what we're doing and are really aligned with the vision and values. So we provide full training about modern slavery, about working with survivors of modern slavery and vulnerable people. And I think, honestly, it comes back to that kind, supportive culture. That's where we see a lot of the best success, because that helps people who are accessing the program feel more confident, they feel less nervous, less intimidated, and just allows them to thrive and just be themselves. I think that's definitely one of the key parts for us. But then again, it's making sure that the right roles are available, so making sure that they're at sociable hours, it's available by public transport, just so the whole journey into employment from start to finish is a very accessible one and very welcoming, I think, is the main thing.
I mean, as a company, you don't have to have, you can just carry on with your normal day-to-day running. You don't have to specifically look after people with lived experience, because we have got placements ready for them so that they can approach somebody at all times. It's just treating them the same as everybody else, with that little bit of, with that respect that everybody deserves in the workplace.
Definitely.
We're quite capable of, working for ourselves and getting on with the job that we need to. But sometimes we might just need to take 5 minutes, speak to somebody, and then we can get back to our normal business. And nobody needs to, know, oh, he or she is a lived experience. That's, completely irrelevant. We're there to do a job. We know that.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the key parts of Bright Future is there is a level of anonymity with the program. It's only on a need-to-know basis within the company that they're coming from the program. And that's really to empower the survivor with the decision about whether to share their history or not.
Yeah.
And we've had candidates who on the first day will tell everybody that they're coming from the program and this is why it's amazing and this is why it works for them. But we've had candidates who have said to us, I finally feel normal. It doesn't matter what I've been through. I'm accessing this employment just like any other new starter here.
Yeah.
So it's just really important that we're empowering them with that decision, and yes, just giving them that control over themselves and their history and how much they're sharing, just like any other new starter as well.
Absolutely, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there about, I think it's the importance of creating that confidence that, they can just go to work and they can get on with their job like everyone else, while at the same time having, the support of you guys and their line manager to thrive in their role. We've obviously got a lot of partners here today. It's not just ourselves, it's not just our supply chain partners, it's also our customers. What advice would you give to a company who sort of might be interested, and what would they have to do to get involved and to partake in the program?
Just come and speak to me afterwards. I'll be right here on the left-hand side, and you can contact us at info@brightfuture.coop. I'll make sure that we can maybe put it somewhere with Speedy. But yes, basically just come and speak to us. We can talk about the program in more detail, make sure that it fits with your company, share even more about the impact that we're having. And yes, we'd love to have that conversation with you if you're interested.
Yeah, you never know who you might take on. You might take on the next CEO of the company.
That's true.
Who knows? Anything is possible.
Yeah, I was just going to come on to that point, actually. Can you share some examples where people have gone on, I appreciate that what we're doing is it's not all about, sort of success, in a sort of linear fashion within your career. It's about giving people that opportunity to be comfortable in work, get on with their life. But are there any examples of where, you've really supported someone and have accelerated and driven forward in their career?
Yes, I think you're very right. There's different benefits that come from the employment, and we often hear of candidates. Well, we had one person I think I mentioned. She started off as a cleaner, and quite quickly made it very clear that she'd like to progress to working directly with children. She was working in a nursery at the time, and as soon as the 4-week initial placement was over, she was fast-tracked into an apprenticeship program with the company, and is now working directly with children, which is incredible. That was her dream as an early years practitioner. So it is about those big achievements. It's about people gaining their own accommodation from having the stability of safe employment. It's about them making those huge steps in their career. But we also have people who have told us that with their first paycheck, which was the largest amount of money that they'd ever had in their bank account, they were going to take their partner out for a pub meal.
Yeah.
And they were going to buy themselves some new shoes. So it is really about the huge impacts that employment can bring, but it's also just, it comes back to that dignity, that self-confidence, to allow people to be who they are. So I think that's just something really important. But I know you've had a lot more success with building your own companies. You're very successful
Very
entrepreneur.
different journey.
Very different journey.
Very different journey. So obviously for me, it was very different because I didn't have that support. So basically, my journey happened in Europe. So I was trafficked across the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany, and I'm half English, so it was natural for me to come back to the UK. And I found myself in a situation where obviously there was zero support. There wasn't the access to the internet where I could just pick up the phone and say, "Hi, can you help me, please?" It just wasn't there. So part of my journey was telling myself that I was going to be okay. It was part of, I can do this. This is a lesson for me. I'm going to learn through this. I'm going to have a better future. I'm going to be successful, whatever I do when I get out of this. So I always had that knowledge that I was going to escape or get out. Didn't know how, because there was, again, nothing in place to help me escape. So when I found myself in a position. I actually went to work for my father in the UK. He had his own business, and it wasn't right. It wasn't for me. There was no level of support. I was isolated. I was having to deal so much with the things that I had experienced. It had no place where I was. I couldn't express myself. It was just a very, very intimidating, lonely, scary place. In fact, I find the transitioning far more difficult than actually having to be exploited.
Yeah.
You know, if that was fair to say. It wasn't long after that where I decided that actually I'm going to do something for myself. I'm going to, become self-employed. I tried various different levels of self-employment, starting from becoming a childminder, which I think was the first thing I ever did, and I've had craft businesses, and I generally leveled up. So I've started up 13 different businesses for myself. I'm running 3 of them successfully at the moment, and I'm still planning on growing. So I'm at the stage now where I'm looking to employ people so that they can run aspects of my business. I'm looking at ways of make passive income, but I'm also looking at ways how I can empower other women to create their own businesses. And I'm not even anywhere near the mark that I want to achieve. So that's what I'm saying is it doesn't matter who you take on, being able to be there to offer them that support. You just don't know what they're capable of, and once their confidence comes back, and once they have the power to, express themselves within the workplace, they could end up becoming somebody quite amazing. And I think that's really where we're aiming for, is giving these people the opportunity to be believed in, and then anything is possible. So who knows where I could have been if I had this confidence or this support early on. When I came back to the UK, I might be far closer to my goals right now than I currently am. But
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
No, absolutely. And I think clearly you've obviously made such a difference to so many people's lives as well. And does your own story, I mean, it's obviously incredibly powerful what you're saying, but how does your experience sort of sit with other survivors of modern slavery? And more importantly, what do they want when they sort of get out of that, when they, as I say, can break free of that situation? What do they want once they come out of that?
I think, first of all, once people come out, they just want that bit of stability. They want to know where they're at, what their role is going to be, and live in an environment where they're not scared. They're not living in fear constantly. I think that is absolutely paramount to be able to offer people that. The journey that I can offer people is experience, is letting them know that it's all going to be okay, because I'm living proof of that, as most of us lived experiences are there now to tell the tale.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy journey. It's a long journey, but with the likes of other businesses getting on board and offering these safe spaces, that time of healing is suddenly shortened, and that's where the difference will be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think Misha, just to sort of bring you in on this as well, when you sort of work with various companies and organisations and so on, how do you are you sort of embraced openly in terms of that is something we absolutely want to do? And what I think would you say are the most sort of common hurdles that you have to come over to get more to get more involvement with victim or survivors of modern slavery back into the workforce?
It's a good question. I think definitely with my experience with Causeway, I know that trauma looks different for every survivor, and recovery looks different for every survivor, and it's not a linear process, as many of us will know. So I think that's the first hurdle, is making sure that we're empowering survivors in the right way, and the charities that we're working with do an incredible job of making sure that they do feel safe and feel supported, and get to a place where they can start thinking about something like employment. But with our businesses, I think one of the best things that we do is just talking to them about modern slavery with very low expectations about what they should know. You know, we're here to raise awareness about modern slavery as well as our program. We want people to feel confident in asking the questions and kind of breaking those stereotypes. We talk about that quite a lot, these myths of modern slavery. Sorry, I think I've gone off the track from your question.
No.
But
It was just the reason I was asking it is mainly because, as I say, within the audience we'll have different people within different organisations and different roles, and what I want to sort of get an understanding of, how can we, not just as a business but within an industry, how can we drive change and how can we sort of get more opportunities for survivors of modern slavery? And ultimately it is, I think you've answered that in what you've said really, because I think, as I say, it's highlighting those sort of misconceptions and sort of getting people the opportunities that, you know, that they absolutely deserve, and demonstrating the difference that, you know, these people can make. I think just sort of as we sort of come to the end of the interview, I think one of the things I just wanted to sort of to get a bit more understanding of, if, as I say, from both of you, what would be your sort of plea to the audience here and those who no doubt watch this on social media afterwards? What can they do today to improve the lives of survivors of modern slavery?
Did I start?
I think first of all is providing a safe space, opening your business to take more people on from different backgrounds, especially people with lived experience. I think that would mean a whole lot to us. And I think also by check in who you're doing business with, because some of the people that you do business with may not have those ethics. They might be working with agencies that are using people for modern slavery. And I think it's really important to know who you're doing business with, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And I think, I think there's been a big shift, from what I understand, with investors about sustainability. And I think that's a really important one, to really encourage businesses to be focusing on their human rights policies, I guess, and just focusing in on where you're doing business and supply chains, transparency, the due diligence that you're taking, because it's an enormous business, an enormous sector that you're working in, but it's really important that it always comes back to the individual and the individuals that are working for you. And I think it's such a key part of what Speedy's doing. It's such a key part of what our other business members are doing. So yes, we just really encourage you to speak to us, get involved with what we're doing. We've talked a lot about the hearts and minds of what we're doing, but also it puts you at the forefront of the sector in your sustainability efforts. It carries a lot of weight reputationally for you, but as I've mentioned, and what we're really here for, it does come back to that individual, and it's the lives that are being changed and the difference that you're making. So yes, please do come and speak to us. We're happy to sing Speedy's praises and the other businesses that we're working with and tell some more stories about the impact that we're having. But it's only possible when we have the support of our businesses who are very open to supporting survivors. So yes, please do come and speak to us.
Right. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time today. And as we've said, you will be here for the rest of the day. You're just over to our left of the stage here. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for your contribution as well. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.